Sean went to the international school 18 years, 12 years here, and during summers I would take him to the US, and when my parents were still alive, I would take him sometimes over in December, that's Christmas and New Year's. He had about 3 weeks vacation, and I would take him to Florida. And then one time I took him to Washington, D.C., and we spent about 5 days in Washington, D.C., and then we went down to Florida. But in the summers, he would be in New York City, where we stayed with her cousin, and we would travel around a little bit there. And that's because her son Benjamin was going to go to university, and his mother wanted to visit the campuses, so Benjamin visited several campuses, MIT, Harvard, Brown, Dartmouth, and a lot of this. And then eventually Benjamin decided to go to Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, which is #1 science and technology school. Benjamin is very, very smart. And he was in a high school in New York City, which was competitive. You had to take examination. He was very, very smart. And he graduated, and he worked in New York City area. Then later he went out to San Francisco area to work. And so we did a lot. Now, for Ben, when Sean and I would travel around, and we would stay basically 3 places. We would stay in cheap motel, and we would go camping. And once in a while, we go in more expensive place. And so Sean and I would fly into a city, and then we would make a circle. For example, we flew into Sacramento here, and we were in these states here. And then we went into Nevada, and we were up in Utah, and went to Grand Canyon here. And we would go in and then go a circle. So he had been all of these states west of the Mississippi. He was even in Kansas, because we went across here, but he refused to go to Texas. He didn't want to go to Texas. So he had been in every state except North Dakota and Oklahoma and Texas. I think actually we were in eastern Texas. He used to go here. So he had been in 28 states when he graduated high school. And I wanted him to see the West, how big it was. So then we would spend about 2 weeks with my parents in Michigan there. So we go to New York City, Michigan, and then the West, and travel around. I rent a car, and I liked that. So later, when he was in university, he went down to New Orleans by himself, with a group of people. Later, he was down here in Mexico, and then later, after he graduated from University of Michigan, he went out to Middle East. He was in Israel and Egypt and Jordan, and then he was in Europe and in Middle East. Oh, then he went to South America. He was down in South America in Bolivia, Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, I think it was, on trips. So he'd done a lot of traveling. And so basically that's that. I want to show you some pictures. Now, I'm going to show you, this is my favorite picture. This is my favorite picture. This is my favorite picture. Right here. This is when Sean was still a baby, obviously.
How old was
he? He was maybe 6 months old or something. I don't remember. This is my favorite picture. This is my favorite picture. Notice, I have my arm up and he has his arm up, and we're both sleeping. Okay, now, this is a picture. This is a picture when I finished the graduate school. This is the picture that Young Suk and I were up in New York City, and then after I graduated from master's course in Ohio.
When is this?
This is 1980. Now let me think. 1982. This is 1982. She and I decided to go to Europe on a Eurail Pass. Eurail Pass is you buy 2 months of tickets, and then you go on a Eurail train. We were in 13 countries. Now you have to buy the Eurail Pass outside of Europe. You can buy it in Korea. You have to buy it, but then you go. So you go 1 month, you go 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And so they decided to visit my ancestral hometown. Now this is a German town. This is where my grandmother came. My grandmother immigrated to the United States when she was 8 years old. That's my father's mother. She came to the U.S. as an 8-year-old child. My father's father, He had come early, his father had come the same year. But so my great-grandfather came, and then my mother's family came the same year. My mother's family and my father's family, my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother families both came to the US in 1867. Separately, of course. And they both came to Western Michigan. They didn't know each other. They came separately. But this is where I come from. This is where I come from. And I saw my grandmother's birth certificate. You know, birth certificate? Birth certificate. It's like family register. I saw her birth certificate. I saw my grandmother's birth certificate. And 8 years later, she came to the U.S. as a child. So this is the city. This is famous church. And she was baptized in this church. And this is right on the border. It's right on the border between Netherlands and Germany.
Yes.
It's where you cross over. And if you go straight west, you go into Amsterdam, Netherlands. So if you go straight west from that city, it's a border city. That's where you go through immigration. You go into Amsterdam, Netherlands. And so this was her place. And so we visited my hometown. And this was 1982. 1982. Okay. I'll show you this picture here. Here's another picture. This is a picture in 1981. 1981. I had a scholarship from the U.S. government. It was called a fellowship. They paid my tuition fees and they gave me living expenses. So I was studying there. And this is when my mother and father were coming back from Florida. They were driving back from Florida to Michigan in May, I think it was, in May. And they stopped. Now, I don't know if you can recognize me here. It's a joke. This is me here. Now, at
Hair is long.
I had very long hair. I had let my hair grow for 1 year. Yeah, I was still young. And this is youngster. Notice she had long hair too. And so they stopped to visit us at Ohio University.
Yeah, show it too. You show it
I
too.
did a show again. 1982. This is 1982. And then, yeah.
35 years ago.
Yeah, and then I graduated. I went up to we visited her cousin up in New York, and they went to Europe, and we traveled in Europe for 2 months, and we slept a lot on the train. We slept 20 nights on the train because we get on a train between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, and then sleep on the train. So we were in 13 countries. And let's see, we went into Belgium. Belgium, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and then came back to Italy, then up to Switzerland, Austria, back into Germany, and then we went to Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. We came back to Copenhagen,
Yes.
and we're near the end of our 60 days. We took a train straight from Denmark for 2 days, 2 days from Copenhagen back to Athens. 2 days. Now, why did we go back to Athens, Greece? Because the cheap airplane was cheapest in Athens. So we checked in Frankfurt, Germany, and we checked in Copenhagen, Denmark, and we checked in Athens, Greece about a cheap plane fare. And so the cheapest was out of Athens, Greece. So we took 2 days and went back to Athens, and we flew out. And we flew through Egypt Air, went down to Egypt, and then from Egypt went all the way into Japan, one airline, to Egypt Airs. And then in Tokyo, we got into Korean Air and flew back to Korea. So that was our big European trip. 2 months. And that was during that time that we stopped in Germany. Okay, now here's another picture. I was the oldest student in my graduating class. I went back and took another degree. I was age 49 when I graduated. 49. And this is my graduation picture. And this isn't a picture to notice. It was very common to have a beard. So when I worked at Kodae, I was a professor at Korea University, I had a beard too, for many, many years. Had a beard. And so that was my last university. Last university. Now this is a picture of Sean when he was very young. Notice I was clean shaven there. This is a picture of Sean when he was very, very young. And he was playing basketball for us. This would be what, high school, middle school team. This was middle school team. Now, that's a long time ago. So Sean now has become much, much older, so. This is what Sean looks like about a year ago. Was this a year ago? Yeah, a year ago. This is about a year ago. So you notice that Sean's got, well, I have no more beard. My beard got very white.
Show us again.
So I shaved it.
Picture.
Yeah, this is Sean. Okay. Now, some people say that Sean is more handsome than I am, but that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. You have old handsome for a long time, and then you have young handsome.
I think Sean is more handsome.
Well, people think Sean is more handsome because he's younger. So my nickname at the university, when I taught at Korea University, was Handsome. Professor
you're
Handsome.
handsome.
Because my last name was
Hamsun, right?
Hamsun, I was called Professor Handsome when I was at Korea University. And then eventually I retired and I still live in Korea. But this is sort of the history. But a couple points here. Number one, American students usually work. They have Arbeit. Because universities are quite expensive. And so the students often work Arbeit, part-time job, university, and then summer jobs. I had many summer jobs in many states, and I usually worked construction. I had a job in Wyoming, on the pipeline. Let me show you, on the pipeline. Pipeline is we're putting the pipe of oil. This was in Wyoming, right here in Wyoming. Now, this was a job in Wyoming. We started at 6 o'clock a.m. 6 a.m. We had to be at the warehouse. And we got in a truck and then we drove out into ranch land. You know, just land. And we had cows running around and they're digging a big hole. And we put the pipeline in. We started at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, 6 o'clock in the morning. This is summer job, 6 o'clock in the morning. And so we worked usually till about dark, which was somewhere around about 7:30, sometimes 8 o'clock. And then we would drive back. So we got farther and farther away from the central area. So we would work anywhere from 11 hours a day to 13 hours a day and got paid. And we worked 7 days a week. 7 days a week. I loved that job. I loved that job because I worked there for 5 weeks, and I made enough money to finance 1 year of university. My parents paid no money. No money.
You?
Well, there were two parts. Number one, you had the military, they had what they call the GI Bill. And the American government gave you 1 month, 1 month of expenses, well, 1 month of $100 a month, $100 a month for each month that you've been in the military. I had 47 months in the military. I got out early 1 month, so I only had 47, not 48. So they would pay me for 47 months of university. I got $100. Now I had a room it wasn't like a hasuchi, well, it was like a hasuchi. I had a room, and my room cost me $50 a month. $50 a month for the room. It was just a small room, and there was no kitchen, and so then I had $50 for expenses. So I had another job when I was here at Michigan State. I worked in sororities and fraternities' kitchens. Now, fraternity was a group of men living together in a big house, and they had to pay money to live in an expensive house, and then you work in the kitchen. So I worked in the men's kitchen, and then I worked in the ladies' kitchen, the girls' kitchen. I loved the girls' kitchen the best. I worked pots and pans. You know, you fry and cook stuff, pots and pans, and you gotta scrub it. And I was the only person there. The others were girls. Some of the girls were working there, and I was just working there. And so this was the ruling. I could come or not for lunch. It was my choice. But I had to come at night because I had to scrub the pots and pans at night. I loved that. Now, they had very expensive food because the parents paid money for them to live there. And so they were eating lobster, steak,
Wow.
very expensive. And sometimes they had these small like this, about this big, called ribeye steak, which is the most expensive steak. And the girls were eating maybe one steak, or maybe 1.5. I was eating 4 or 5 steaks. I got fat. I'm scrubbing pots and pans, and they would finish, and then I go up, and I'm still, and then I had to mop the floor, and then I would leave. I got to be there about 5 o'clock because sometimes I didn't get out till 7 o'clock. I worked for 2 hours, but I loved it, and I just loved that because I ate what they ate, and then they gave me $5 a week, $5 a week extra. But I got fat because first time in my life I ever had lobster. Lobster, you crack it in there. But the ribeye steak were absolutely beautiful. I loved it. And so I had many other jobs. I worked construction. I worked as a carpenter's helper and all kinds of things, other arbeit in the university in the area. And this is the thing. Number one is the students often work arbeit jobs, and then they have that during the school system, weekends, and sometimes during at night, and then during summer jobs. And then I had the military $100, and I spent a lot of money on books. And then I also had some money I saved up, and then in the summers I would travel around a lot. And in the summers I wanted to work far away from Michigan. So one summer I was working at a summer camp for children for 10 weeks. That was mentally and physically retarded, and the other 4, and it was a very, very rich camp in New Hampshire. Then I worked in Michigan at one camp too, and those are 2 summer camps. But then I worked in Denver, Colorado, apartment construction. Wyoming, I worked in pipeline. I worked in California, and those are 3 I can think of. Yeah. But I tried to go away, so I worked in New Hampshire, and then Colorado and Wyoming. And people, now this is the important point. The men, the boys in the university wanted construction jobs for 2 reasons. Number one, they had a tan because of the sun. You look tan.
Mhm.
So if you go to the beach and go swimming or all that, then you have a tan. Well, they're out working, and they take their shirt off outside, and they tan face and arms and back.
Suntan.
So they have a suntan, which is very important. Now, a suntan, this is different than Korea. A suntan meant you had enough money that you did not have to work inside an office. So they're outside working and getting paid, getting a suntan. Secondly, you could make a lot of money, particularly if you worked extra time. Normally you work 40 hours a week. You work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, normally. But when I was working here, I was working 11 to 13 hours a day, 7 days a week. I made a lot of money in one short time period. And I made enough money to finance 1 year, 1 year at Michigan, 1 year. Then I also worked, I mentioned other places. Here I was working inside because this was construction. But the guys wanted, now this is the funny part. The boys could get the summer jobs in construction, and then the girls complained. Girl university students were complaining. And they complained, they said, the male students can get construction jobs. We cannot get construction jobs. We want construction jobs because it's money. So you have 2 people usually out, and you're outside and you got a sign on, and they have a sign that says stop and go. And you stand there and you tell people stop and go, or else you have radios. And you're just directing traffic. And this is construction, because if you're doing road construction or something, you tell people to stop, and all you do is stand there and switch stop and go sign. So you can be out there in a bikini if you want and get your suntan. And it's not hard work, but you get same pay. Girls get same pay as boys. And girls don't have to work hard, just to sign. The boys have to do all kinds of hard work. And girls got the jobs. They got the jobs and they wanted the money. They wanted the money and the suntan. And so girls would work out there, but they wouldn't do the same work. So construction jobs are very important. And the reason people worked is the parents did not have enough money to pay. Some of the people had scholarships. A lot of people, no scholarships. So when they're in high school now, high school is different. In Michigan, you could start working at age 12. This was boys first. And you would have a newspaper route, Shimon. And my brother got the newspaper route when he was 12, and I was 9, and I was 9 and he was 12 years old. I was 9. And he had about 70, 75 customers. They delivered the paper to each home. So we lived in a village, and so he had half of it and I had half of it. So I started working at age 9. My first job was age 9, because my brother was 12. And so my father opened a bank account for me, bank account. And you had to have $25 to open the account. My father put $25 in the bank when I was 9 years old. And so I took my money and I was putting my money that I made with papers in there. And occasionally my mother said, well, he must learn how to spend money. So I take him and he go and he buy some clothes. So then I would buy some clothes, not a lot, but some clothes I would pay for myself. Age 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, when my brother hit 12 years old, no, excuse me, my brother hit 14 years old, he could work in a gas station at age 14. So then he went to work in a gas station and I got the whole route. Yeah, so he went to the gas station, I had it, so I did that. I did that. And then at age 14, you could work 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week you could work. And some of the boys they worked in factories. Like one student in my class worked in a factory where they were cutting up cows. A beef factory. You would cut up the meat. He worked in the factory at age 14, well, he was also a student. And so then at age 16, yeah.
That's enough?
Yeah. Okay, you can sum up.
Okay. Well, I'm just telling you, this is background. This is U.S., which is different. Enter Delisle, very, very different. The key is money. Parents did not have the money to pay the tuition.
Key is
Okay.
money.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.